That's right. Yay. We're going live. Well, I figured it out. Now, in case you don't know, what you're watching is me creating an on-demand television show. Oh, they got the shade over there. I didn't get any shade on. Right? I'm creating an on-demand television show right here on this show. And on this show, what I did was I made a lot of accusations. Right? I made a lot of accusations on this show. And I'm not afraid to do that. I called a lot of people out by name because I had good reason to. So, what we're doing here is we're creating this show, where it is the very first self-involved show. Now, I'd like to say that I had some grand epiphany, or like, oh, it came to me in a dream or a vision, but it didn't. I did sleep in, and my dreams are very vivid dreams, but I didn't have any vivid dreams that I could remember. But what I did figure out, and I do that through my show, and this is what I'm trying to tell you, that our life is a mystery, all right? Everyone must stand alone. I hear you call my name, and it feels like, oh, no, it's not a Madonna lyric. That's like a prayer. I used to do Elvis Presley singing all the hits from the 1980s. That used to be cool. Yeah, happy 4th of July, off topic. I hope I'm never on your show. He only LARPs and lampoons homeless drug addicts. Yes, life is a mystery, and so this is going to be the first interactive show that you're going to figure out the mystery of everything that I was talking about while I created. That's right, I will stay positive. Like I said, I've been sober for 2 years, and when I did fall back into my old friend, that's who I call it. I call cigarettes and alcohol my old friend, because they're my oldest friend in the world. They were there when my father wasn't there. They were there when my parents couldn't be there, right? And yeah, that's great. Yeah, guys, I hope you interact with my show a little bit. Off Topic is here. Please subscribe to his show. I always call out the shows that I watch, okay? But like I said, as far as drugs and alcohol are concerned, yeah, I quit everything cold turkey. I went and got myself a motel room, and I took the money that I had, and I just basically didn't leave my motel room for 2 months. You know, again, I go out and get food, just come back. I took a lot of showers. I played a lot of Led Zeppelin. I did a lot of push-ups. I did it myself, and you know, that's just how I did it. I was lucky that I had the money to do it. Many people don't. And what a lot of people don't understand is you have to move away from where the stuff's at. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. You're the only person out of any of my family or friends to actually congratulate me on being sober. Like I said, I started hanging out with my old friend. Yeah. Yeah, I'm probably the only guy to ever try to dance to Led Zeppelin. I was trying to, I had to keep my body moving. I had to keep sweating. And like I said, I took a lot of showers. I would hang out in the shower, and then I would lay down. Then I would work out, and I just had this routine. I started eating as healthy as I could, which just meant a lot of salads. That's the only thing I know how to do. To eat healthy is just eat vegetables, salad, and fish. But anyway, so what I like to talk about is my real life. That's right, it is a huge accomplishment, considering the fact that I started using drugs and alcohol when I was about 11 and 12 years old. I think a lot of people do. I watch, that's right, I will never stop making videos. Uh-oh, this is my new crutch. Uh-oh, no. Again, like you could take somebody with childhood trauma, and one could become a drug addict and alcoholic, and one could become a workaholic. Okay, and you could see what our society rewards is the workaholic, right? They're gonna be like, oh man, you're amazing worker, you're amazing this. But all that means is that you're channeling your frustration and your anger into something positive instead of something that's self-destructive. Now, we live in a world that was created by a creator or a force. If you guys are a Jedi, use the force. Now, this world was created by something you can't deny it. A force, something, whether it was the Big Pour or the Big Bang. And what we have here are amazing things. Like, you can go get a bottle of wine, you can go get a pack of cigarettes, you can go get some weed, you can do whatever you want. There's nothing wrong with that. But just like anything, we can't eat a wedding cake every single day of our life. Okay? You can't do something every single day and expect to have balance in your world. Even if you ate, you know, like I want to eat like a salad with fish every single day because I love it. But obviously, you want to kind of have a little bit of balance. It's okay. You can go have a banana split. That's really what I want. Every once in a while. Okay? But what I'm telling you is you go through the history of this show, and this is an interactive show, okay? And so you could contact any of my old friends. Now, I'm a memoirist. My writing is always in the description. And you could see that I write about my real life because I find it more interesting. I like reading about other people's real lives. And you can contact these people that I doxed. Oh, well, life sucks. I guess you shouldn't have been calling me in 2018 and wondering what was going on. Again, what they're using that nobody else is talking about except for me is a neurological weapon. And people in the government know that they're using this neurological weapon. And they point it at people and they aim it at people, and it causes them to act out of sorts, and then they hit the record button. Then they take that video and they put it up online. Okay, this is like a horrendous future that you have to kind of navigate. Okay, and to do something like that is really, truly unconscionable. These people are what I used to call as fake sociopaths. They're not a real sociopath because sociopath into psychopath, because first of all, it's just a front. It's just a front. I began this series talking about the Manson industrial complex and how that has kind of writ large. And I also brought up the fact that how drugs have kind of remained the same price this whole time. How come a gram of coke isn't $500 by now? Okay? It's not. Why? Because you can talk about Freeway Ricky Ross and all these families and cartels that are bringing drugs into the country, and it could switch hands all at once. But the fact is, something's been driving it into the country, and it's been steady ever since. It can never go up. The price can never go up. It could really never go down. Really, it is where it is. It flatlined because it's driving something. It's driving some force. They say that it pays for a lot of black ops, but it seems to me that a lot of these government actors, I call them government employees, they're getting paid just fine, and all the money is allegedly coming from our taxes. I don't really know. I think sometimes the numbers seem a little bit too fantastic, right? It seems a little too fantastic. And I already talked about what's going on over in the Ukraine. It's amazing how I know to be true that people's device, that wherever they're getting their news and information, which is mostly from where? Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. They're being ascribed an AI, their own personal AI, just like Depeche Mode's My Own Personal Jesus, right? Your own personal AI is delivering to you confirmation bias. This is what's causing people on the extreme left and people on the extreme right to behave extremely. And it just seems to me that, just from what I can gather on the ground here, because I know what a true investigative reporter is, I'm bringing you stuff from the streets, and that was the whole point of this IRL culture. It's to show you what real life was like. and it's not to be manipulated. But it just seems to me that more men are kind of like chuckling about President Trump, and a lot of women can't stand the guy. And I think what's happening is that you're getting this AI ascribed to you through your device. It is coming at you from Facebook. It is coming at you from Instagram specifically. Now, they changed the algorithm at Twitter, so I don't know what's happening, because guess what? I can't look at somebody else and see what they're receiving. You can only see what you're receiving, and you can see what somebody else is posting. You can't see what's feeding them, okay? And what's being fed to you is this confirmation bias. There is no doubt. You are being triggered by this AI. I'm utterly convinced of it, and you would have to convince me otherwise. My name's Gordon Douglas Ison, and I spent a dozen years, like I said, man. I don't do anything fly by night. I spent 10 years on social media, and I worked it, and I worked it, and I worked it, and it's not only the fact that you can't get things that you really truly want, it's going to deliver what it's trying to give you, right? But it's even worse than that when you have these quote-unquote Fed rats behind it. And they can crank that algorithm so high that your fight or flight mechanism kicks in, and people think this is hilarious. They must work for the government and pop so many SSRIs that they're participating in this Milgram experiment, and the Milgram experiment is your social media app and you. That's what's happening, okay? Nobody else is talking about this. I'm not on Twitter, I'm not on Facebook, and I'm not on Instagram. I might get back on Twitter. Twitter would be the only outlet that I would get on. That's it. It's just Twitter, okay? So this is a mystery show. I told you about my life. I told you that the woman I lived with for 7 years was actually targeting me through this device. And some of you might say, hey, well, you deserved it. I'm not really sure. Did I commit a crime against my wife? I never did. But I can tell you for a fact that when they press this button and they target you, they could make you cry. They could make you bark at the moon. I call it barking at the moon. You just start yelling and cussing. And the times that this has been done to me, there was always a female involved. And I believe the female was the one who was pressing the button. Because definitely with my wife, there was some very bizarre behavior when it came to her. Now, what I'm telling you to do, this is the first time in history, you are solving the mystery of my life. You are creating my second memoir. It's called I, Son, right? I, Son. My last name's Ison, I-S-O-N. Ison, right? And I have 3 older sisters, right? And people that I know were coming through the Facebook app, and by coming through it, this is what I started calling the Cinderfella effect, okay? Again, I'm not going to use other people's nomenclature because people can take the mick out of it. I have to create my own. And I got this from, great people like Anthony Burgess and stuff like that. Sorry, the side of my head's on fire. It's burning! Ooh, that's a little better. Maybe I should straighten up my posture. Okay? So this is the first time in history that this would be, you're creating an actual movie about my either death or my life, whatever. Sorry. I'm so glad they, Vaughn's and Pavilions, I guess they're the same thing. They put my beverage of choice on sale. So I was able to get my beverage of choice for $5. So I got the equivalent of two beverages for $5 that I would normally, if I had any money, I would buy at Starbucks. Thanks, Starbucks. I appreciate it. I'm Gen X. I'm a Gen Xer. And so I do appreciate places like Starbucks. I remember what life was like before them, before they existed. And I'm one of these people who, I'm not an accelerationist because I don't think we're talking about this accelerationism enough. But I do know that, like, with movies like the Hot Fritos movie, whatever that is, right? That it's okay to put products into films, into television shows. I think that's where we're going. We're going into the seamless future. Sorry, Spielberg, but M&M still outsell Reese's Pieces. I'm not sure really who's eating the Reese's Pieces still to this day. I don't know. Nice try. But yeah, this is what I'm talking about. That's my generation, right? Coming up. But again, by the time... I'm so old that by the time E.T. came out, I wasn't really watching it. I was already into the French New Wave. I was already into like Fellini, Satyricon, and like bizarre things like this, right? So anyways, again, I made a lot of claims on this show. I called out a lot of people by name. It's up to you. I doxed these people. Oh well, sorry. But there was something going on in 2018. And this was corroborated by Frances Haugen herself. They said a lot of people were feeling, you know, like they wanted to self-harm and stuff like that. That was what was happening, was coming through my app. There is no doubt. I'm the only person talking about this. Frances Haugen actually talked about it. But if you expect these politicians to actually ask the right questions, they won't. It's like when you're watching the big game, say like the Super Bowl, and the guy drops a throw that is so easy to catch that you're just like, you know, my old maid aunt could have caught that, right? And you're wondering, hey man, is the game rigged here? Is the game somehow rigged? Right? And that seems to be the way it is also in the government. Is the game rigged in the government as well? Does one hand really know what another hand is doing? And does it begin to form these levels, say, where you have one level happening over here, you have another level of something going on over here, and that creates an entire third thing that's unique unto itself, right? We don't know. But I would hope that you could work with me in trying to solve the mystery that is this show. Okay, so there's a couple things going on. I'm trying to grow my show. Please like, share, subscribe, and do whatever the heck it is that you want to do. But I'm also working on a television series that deals with reincarnation. It deals with music. And it deals with... I told you that Mark Zuckerberg came out with a white paper, a business plan, in March of 2023, where he says that he wants you falling in love with your device. He wants you looking at Facebook and excuse me, Instagram, as if you're in love with them, right? Didn't we see this before in the film called Her? Right? That your what do they call it? iOS, IO, or whatever, OIS. The OSS, oh boy. Right? So where your operating system becomes a substitute for someone in your life. Well, that's what it is already. But look at what happened to me. I was targeted nefariously with this thing. And I was 100% canceled. And my behavior showed that. And this lasted for years, guys. They can use it on the ground. Now, when I was working at Atelier 4 in the 2014 era, I can't remember, 2014, 2015, in Long Island City, New York, I remember the guy with the green Jeep. Oh yeah, I remember him. He lived out in Long Island, and he was talking about drugs. He had me come out to his place, right? Talking about trading Jeeps with me. He was the one who was running this device when I was there. And it puts you in a heightened state, and they sit back there and laugh about it. That's how long ago that they were using this on me. And I could tell because when I went out there, he wasn't by himself. He was with his quote-unquote buddy. His buddy's a police officer. He gave him this tech. They're just giving it to whoever they want to. My wife had it. I don't believe that she had well, first of all, she never had a reason to have it. The bizarre thing about it, and I call her my wife, unfortunately, because she was actually gaslighting me. And she wasn't telling me she was using it. And I thought that I was going insane. And that's why they said, oh, Gordon, he broke up with his wife, and so he's feeling despondent. So let's race in and save him. They're all liars. They all know about this tech. And if they don't, then they're too stupid to understand it. And all you're going to get out of them is somebody being incredulous. Now, I already gave the names of these people away. This is the mystery show. This show is the next book. You understand? Oh yeah, this show is that. And it's the first one in history. Take a look at some of the other shows that are out there. I'm sorry, Dave Portnoy interviewing people for the job that they got rid of the guy. I explained to you guys with Dave Portnoy, I explained to you the entire thing. They cherry-picked the guy singing a rap lyric that's filled with the N-word. They said that he's not allowed to say that. And they used it to fire him. That's what laws are created for. That's why laws are passed. All laws. Not just social faux pas. Social faux pas are what they're doing right here on the internet. Right here on social media. Where you're canceled, just like me. I'm canceled, don't forget. I'm canceled. I fit every multi-culti demographic that you could have. But yet I'm canceled? Really? Yeah, interesting. Right? And again, like I said, it has you swinging at the ropes. It has you saying, well, is it my race? Is it my face? Is it something that I said? Is it something that I did? Oh, I don't know. Oh my gosh. Right? But I know people utilizing the Facebook app sure do. And there's people that I've mentioned by name. And perhaps when I do a show, I'll do a show soon and I'll mention both the first and last names of these people. You can contact them yourself. I've already doxed these people. You have to look into who they are. They were people who worked at Harmony House Records in Detroit, in downtown Trappers Alley in the 1980s. Find these people. Find these ex-girlfriends of mine who I've mentioned. Right? Because when I was going to do my second book called Ison, that's exactly what I was going to do. Without actually contacting any of these people. Right? I was going to background check myself. I was going to take the mick out of all of my arrests, which 90% of them are fallacious. Actually, I could say 99% because there was only one arrest that I've ever been involved in that wasn't a setup. That was me basically doing something wrong and trying to make right of it. I could get more into that, but I won't. But again, it is up to you guys. You have to decide. You have the entire comment section. Right? I have 130 subscribers on this show. And I only get 2 people chiming in. I get 2 people, ever, chiming in. I'm not sure why. You know, and again, if you're just subscribing because you know me, but yet you don't. I mean, again, with the algorithm, I understand things don't come up. You have to share the show. We have to grow the show. And I'm doing things on this show that nobody has done ever. Ever. I put my own life out there. Okay? Nobody else has really done this except, you know, I don't know, Naked and Afraid. Hey, maybe I'll do Naked and Afraid LA. They used to call it streaking when I was a kid. And again, I talk a lot about my own life and about my own past because this stuff is gone and it's never really going to come back. And it might be gone forever, just like us, right? We're all scrambling to preserve our work, right? I was scrambling to preserve relationships that I'll never even bother to blink about ever again. You're gone like a blink in my eye. because what they were doing is they were using the algorithm on my phone coming through very specific apps in order to start this cancel culture and running game. That's what they call it. I'm not sure why they do it. I guess you're canceled. I guess they're part of groupthink. You know, the kind of people that has pitchforks and torches. Okay? And again, once you're out of the sphere of public debate, you're out. Then there's really nothing left. There's nothing left but to, right? I don't know. It's just very strange that Twitter, now I called this, say you're gonna have to pay to be online. Now you spend 10 years being addicted. You spend 10 years being addicted to your social media. And then before you know it, now you have to pay to be on there. And now before you know it, I know people like this, guys, right now. I've gone Slack, so I don't really, I don't really care. But I know people right now who are scrambling. They're running around. They're doing DoorDash. They're doing all these, what do you call it? They're doing all these minimum wage jobs just to pay for their quote-unquote lifestyle, right? Whether it's rent or a lot of these people, they'll sleep right in their car. They don't have any place to sleep. They can't even afford rent. But you're running around and you're scrambling to try to maintain some relevance. Now take a look at somebody who has to pay to be on, right? You have to pay to be on your device now, right? You got to pay to be on your device. What's going to happen then? Eh? Now you have to pay to be on Twitter. You have to pay to be on Facebook. You have to pay to be on Instagram. But you're scrambling. All I had to do was like go like this. I need a producer. Can you just a little bit more? Oh, Michigan. Now you're scrambling to pay these bills, which is kind of what I'm doing right now. I'm walking around with all my tech. That's what I walk around with. I walk around with tech. I have my clothes. I have, my sleeping bag. But the thing that weighs the most is my tech. And I'm trying to maintain this online presence. Well, why if I'm canceled? I'm canceled, man. Right? You're canceled. And we saw a film about this. It's called The Circle. I'd like to look more into these films and stuff like that. I could look stuff up on my phone, but I find it to be a little bit less engaging. Okay? So what I always like to talk about is the television show that I am in pre-production for. I'll be in pre-production for this until it actually goes into production. And I've created one of the most interesting universes ever. And I've actually already created the rap genre that's going to begin after the punk rock genre, because that's basically what happened in real life. You can see around this time, you can see the emergence of rap and hip-hop. We all know that. It goes back to the 80s with NWA. We all know that, right? With, transgressive lyrics and like, oh boy, who do we sell this to? Which actually goes back to the MC5. Kick out the jams, MFer. That's what they said on their record, and it got banned. That is from Detroit, and don't ever forget that. MC, the Motor City 5. And that proves right there that the punk rock museum needed to be in Detroit. But that's okay. Don't ever forget that the biggest stars to come out of Detroit were never even, since rap, since Motown, and there ain't no racism on this show, but take a look at who they are. Eminem at 8 Mile, Jack White, who's literally pasty as a mom, and Kid Rock. Those are the biggest stars to come out of Michigan. Huge stars making, you know, combined, it's untold. Combined, those three gentlemen, combined, it's untold. It's probably in billions and billions of dollars. Right? Now, it's tough because I can't remember everybody's name, but I told you that I was working with Jonathan Larson's sister. She used to call my office. I didn't work directly with her. A lot of people used to call the office. Spike Jones came into my office when I was working for Propaganda and Satellite Films in New York. But that's Jonathan Larson's sister, Julie Larson. I still remember what her name was. And Jonathan Larson wrote Rent. Now, I just saw, not that it has much to do with anything, but Billy Joe Armstrong also did a rock and roll theatrical on Broadway show, just like Rent. Okay, when Rent came out, I remember this guy named Brian Carmody, excuse me, sorry, he came back and he goes, man, I just saw this thing, it's called Rent. He goes, it's freaking amazing. He's like, it's a musical and it's like, it's got all this music. And I go, well, who is it? It was Jonathan Larson. Well, I had went over to actually rent a room from Jonathan Larson, and I would have had to sleep in a bunk. And I was worried because I was an alcoholic, and I had fell out of a bunk before and smashed my head. I'm not kidding. I had fallen out of a bunk bed area because I was so drunk, and I was an alcoholic, and I was actually getting places according to my alcoholism and not according to like what I should actually do, right? And who could say that? And this is the type of life that I actually lived. I'm not proud of it, right? But I'm here to talk about it, and I can talk about it. Like I said, I've got 2 years sober, and I had years of being sober, but the problem was I lived in New York City. I lived with my wife, and they were targeting me through the Facebook app. They were coming through my smartphone, and they were crushing me, and they just did it whenever they felt like it, I guess. There's no rhyme or reason to it. A couple of people, like I said, I got them sussed. I know who these people are, and they were definitely involved. I know who they are, and I know when it was used. Like I said, I was at the old Miami in Michigan, and they used it there, and it kicks in your fight or flight, and I don't know how they're doing it, but they are doing it, and they could just use it whenever, and it's really truly sad. I don't think anyone should have this type of power over another person. I mean, you're out investigating an actual crime, because I can tell you right now that they used it enough times on me where it makes it look like you're being verbally abusive. And that's the scary part, is they can set it to a verbally abusive person. And they can, or they can set it to where it makes it look like you're being verbally abusive. Boom. Then they can come in, they can put you on the ground. If they zap your brain hard enough, what can they do? They can actually say that you have a stroke. They could give you a stroke more than likely through this device. I mean, imagine that. Right? Now, we're laughing about it back when somebody thought that Jamie Foxx had a stroke. I don't know. And then I saw a video of him where he did, I've gotta be free, I've gotta be me, when he was doing Sammy Davis Jr., right? He can make one eye like go to the side. Again, you know, this is part of what I'm trying to tell you with accelerationism, and this schizophrenic future. Okay, so one person is receiving a bit of information in one direction, and another person is receiving completely different information. Now, they could both be coming from the same source. How would you feel about that? Okay, this is the future that we are accelerating into. And this is coming from a person's AI. And I believe that what's happening at these social media companies is that these AIs are being effed with. Because that's what they did to me through my device, all throughout. It was the worst time in my life, 2017 through 2018. And all they had to do was sit there and try to say, oh, he's despondent over his marriage breaking up. Trust me, I am not despondent about a slope-shouldered manatee of a fuddy-duddy. And I never will be, and I never was. I just didn't understand what was going on. And look what we were able to do right here on the show. Okay? We were able to solve these mysteries. And these mysteries come from my own life. And I'm able to pull this information through my subconscious. Okay? I'm not harder, smarter, better, faster than anybody else. Anyone can do this, and I'm proving it. I'm proving it right here on this show. You have to spread the news. Start spreading the news. I remember when Sinatra was still alive, I was supposed to go see one of his last shows. I didn't go because I didn't have a date. A lot of times I won't go. I mean, like, what's the point? Like, what are you going to do? Go to a Sinatra concert by yourself? Like, how creepy is that? On the other hand, I'm sitting at a park by myself. What are you going to do? I remember, and I was at the wetlands to see the Reverend Horton Heat. I think I've seen him twice. You guys remember Reverend Horton Heat? That's back when rockabilly was actually interesting. I drank 16 Rolling Rocks. I just remember the number. I drank 16 Rolling Rocks. And I think by then I was able to drink to perfection. Like I wasn't barfing or anything like that. Like, perfection means I could drink them all without barfing, or maybe just not barfing much. I don't know. Right? So what I like to talk about, in addition to this show that you're watching, it's unprecedented. Nobody does a show like this. All these people are superficial, and they take one side of the aisle, right? And they do the same thing against each other. It's rather boring. Okay? This isn't a self-help channel, because you've got to help yourself anyways. If you want to use it for that, you could use it for that. If you want to use it to tap into what I call the Eggyverse, let's tap into the Eggyverse. That's what I'm calling the cosmic egg. That's what I'm calling the ether. That's what I'm calling morphic resonance. Right? I'm actually a songwriter. How do these songs come to me? How do these tones, how do they come to me? Okay? How? Right? I heard a rather negative interpretation of the King Midas myth, and I didn't particularly care for it. I didn't care for the interpretation of it. It might be correct, because I'm rather new to doing these interpretations and extrapolations. But after King Midas gets cured of being so greedy, now I've talked about this before. Now I said, a new car, caviar, 4-star, daydream, think if I made the football team, blah, blah. Well, then he says, I think I need a Learjet. I can never remember those lyrics. If I had a produced show. It's one of the oldest songs that I've memorized since I was a kid. Like I said, I came from the oral tradition. I remember memorizing all these songs as a child. I love them. I just gravitated to music instantly. And so it's like that with King Midas, right? So King Midas, he's a king. Pretty much have and do whatever he wants. But then he gets greedy, right? And everything he touches turns to gold. He says, well, that doesn't make much sense. Now I can't eat anything. It's not practical. You know, maybe somebody I love. I want to touch somebody I love. Well, now they're gold, you know, right? So that's the morality of that tale. No big deal. But what happens afterwards? I believe Atlas and Pan have a shredding contest. Atlas and Pan are shredding. And everyone says, well, Atlas is the winner. But King Midas says what? King Midas says, that's not what I heard. I didn't hear that at all. As a matter of fact, I heard that Pan was the better shredder. I'm sorry, Zamfir wasn't born yet. Right? And that reminds me a little bit too, early Beastie Boys, they used Led Zeppelin. And so part of classic rock kind of goes into the template of Linoleum Blown Apart. And that's how they're going to move from the grunge and punk genre into the rap genre. Is something similar to that. We'll talk about that when the time comes. But back to King Midas. And King Midas, out of everybody, well, Atlas won. He shredded harder. But King Midas, he had just gotten cured of not being able to eat or do anything because of his greed. He said, hey man, I didn't hear that. I heard Pan, who is the archetype for the devil here in Christianity. It's just simply true. Okay? So it is the same archetype as the devil. The devil went down to Georgia. It's the same tale. The same tale, the devil at the crossroads. Okay? It's the same tale, guys. Being told over and over. We have an eternal recurrence here. Okay? We have an eternal recurrence. We keep seeing the same things happen over and over and over again. But right now we're talking about King Midas, and he's shredding. I mean, he picked a different shredder. And what happened to him subsequently? Atlas said, well, you must have ears, the ears of an ass, my friend, because you didn't hear that correctly. And what happens? King Midas now had the ears of a donkey. He had the ears of a donkey. He had the ears of a donkey. Well, what does that tell you? Is that telling you? That's basically telling you to don't trust your instincts? I mean, that's what I'm getting from that. For me personally, it's don't trust your own instincts. Don't bother. Go along with the crowd. What am I talking about here on this show? I dared to be different. I had to go out into the world, and the first person I met was a fellow Lumbee. I am Lumbee native. I am an outlaw. We're not allowed to be native. Why? Because we're Maroons. Why? Because we're the earliest Maroons to ever come to the Americas. And we're not going to share the same blood as a Plains Indian. On my 23andMe, it says I'm broadly Native American, 1%. I'm broadly Asian, 1%. I don't know. I always joke and say I'm 3.1459% Neanderthal because that is pi. 3.14. It's a magical formula. And if there was ever a Bible code, there is that one. You can check out people who used to put this kind of stuff on YouTube. Okay, so I think once I'm canceled, I don't think there's ever any coming back from being canceled. I think that if I heard that Pan was the winner, that I would say that Pan actually played better. And I think that this is a rather negative mythos or mythology to try to say, what's the matter? Just because he's a king, he can't have a different opinion? You have to go along with everybody else? I already told you that I can also do my own exegesis when it comes to the scribes. And now you might pick up an actual stone and throw it at a person to stone them to death. But if we are our own emerald tablets, and we are our own unpolished gem that we have to go through life trying to polish this gem that is us, can't you see the mythos of stoning an individual is cancel culture and trying to bring them back to the fold? Hey man, I don't think you heard what you were supposed to hear. We don't think Pan shreds, bro. We think Atlas shreds. Okay? We think Atlas shreds, not Pan. So we're gonna stone you with these rough-hewn stones until you change your mind. right? Metaphorically speaking. We're going to get you to change your mind and come back to the fold. Because there's been numerous times, like I said, I'm an in search of guy with... Sorry, there was a bug right on my camera. He's about ready to go on the camera. You're done. Get out of here. Been listening to you for 45 minutes. There's plenty of you. Oh, we're going as long as it takes. Huh? Okay. I'll go all day. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. You can see this show is developing, and I've got some amazing news for you. That I've already developed the 2 film narratives of when Linoleum Blown Apart becomes rap in 1996. Now, don't forget, Walter makes 7 films, okay? And then he stops. And Lionel gets his band's name from the 7th film. Not literally, but he takes it and plays with it and messes it up. Just like we did in punk rock, just like they did in early rap. I don't know what's happening now because I'm 57 years old. Why should I? Right? I think David Chase was close to my age. He was probably a little bit older when he made Not Fade Away. Okay, so he was going back to the music of his childhood. He was probably going back to his own life, trying to start a rock and roll band in high school. We all do. We all did. Mine goes back to grade school. Because we loved it so much and this music was speaking to us, right? And the best thing that could have happened to me was I was into punk rock, and then I got the job at Harmony House, and then I moved to downtown Detroit, and I started meeting new people, right? And I thought these people were intellectual, but I realized that at a certain point, intellectuality kind of stops. It kind of hits a bit of a glass ceiling, and people just remain at this dumb level, and they never really exceed that. And for a little while it was kind of happening before social media came in and kind of took over everything. But don't forget that these social media sites are spying devices. They're not only spying devices, but they're emotionally manipulating devices. And that's not good, because we're going to get emotionally manipulated by the news media anyway. So why do we need these things to heighten that experience? And if we're going to be accelerationists, why can't we see what's going to happen on the other side of some of these platforms? Okay? But I can kind of already see these things. I can kind of see, sorry, my posture's like, I have the posture of an ogre. I'm not going to apologize for that. Yeah. Right? We can kind of see beyond these social media platforms. Can't we? I think so. I think we can kind of predict that there's going to be extreme platforms where there's going to be extreme behaviors, and then there's going to be more temperate platforms, and then the most important platforms that are going to be plucked from and monetized, and people going like, oh my God, I got to be part of it, are the ones that are probably going to be the most manipulative. Right? What can we extrapolate into the future? I like talking about my project, which is called Linoleum Blown Apart. It starts at the turn of the century. Walter's born in 1915. It really starts with Abel Ganz's film. It's called Napoleon, and it's a 5-hour film. I think this film is in the public domain now. I mean, this is incredible to me. This is an incredible opportunity for people to get involved in this project. I actually have all the narratives already written out. I come on here and I do a show every single day that I can anyways. Yeah, sometimes I'm just physically too tired. Sometimes I'm just too hungry. I'm obsessed with food. I have no money. I live on the streets. Literally, I'm living out loud. I talk about a lot of philosophical things on this show. I don't really care who the president is. Why? Because the president doesn't even know I exist. I'm just a number. And when I was coming up, Bob Seger had a song called I'm Not a Number. Damn it, I'm a man. Damn it, I'm a human being. I'm a person. And I think a lot of people are becoming bureaucrats by default. I think a lot of people have a bureaucratic mindset, and I call those people obsequious Philistines. You can be a Christian, you can be anything, but I think the most racist thing in the world is actually asking a person their race for a job application. I think that should be against the law. Because for years, they only had, I don't know, 2 or 3. It's like, what do people from the Middle East put? What do people from India put? Are they putting down that they're white? Does this really make any sense? Does it make any sense that we would do something like that? I think it's very harmful on our society. And I don't think enough people are questioning it. I think there needs to be more synchronicity and synthesis between us and these alleged government gangsters. I think there needs to be a synarchy, right? Because you could see what they did to the anarchistic movement, right? They had Anarchapulco, and then there was, oh my God, there was murders down there that destroyed all of Anarchapulco, because anarchism is actually autonomous and autonomy, and they might come in and they might destroy Bitcoin. Right now, the Federal Reserve is actually looking to possibly coming up with their own crypto, okay? And I have a little bit invested in that, but if I lose it, I lose it. I mean, like, there's nothing I can do about that. I lost my entire bank account, okay? And I started this project that I'm telling you about, which is the television show that you will watch. It's got so much merch. It's got more merch than Breaking Bad, and I couldn't imagine how much merch came from Breaking Bad. I mean, I can't imagine the amount of merch that came from Sons of Anarchy. Okay? Right? I can't believe that leaf that blew down my shirt. Can you imagine the amount of merch coming from these shows? Now take a look at Linoleum Blown Apart. Number one, it's got a really fun name. There might be a little bit too much wind blowing. I might switch it up a little bit here. I don't want too much wind to come in, because I noticed before. Maybe I'll just come in. Hello. Oh my God, I had some crazy stray hair. I could never find it. I could always just kind of see it, and I'm like, there it is. I'm like trying to figure out where the stray hair was. That's how my week went. Stray hairs and living like a stray dog. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, guys. This is the roughest I've ever lived. You know, even when I was homeless in Las Vegas, and I did die. I OD'd and I came back to life. I remember one time I was telling this fella, my clothes were so raggedy. I was wearing the same clothes every day. I was going to day labor, but I was literally making $20 to $30. And, you know, just doing labor and busting my ass. I went into Walmart one time and I just took a bunch of clothes into the changing room and just put on brand new clothes, threw my clothes in the garbage, and walked right out the door. I mean, at least I had some fresh clothes on. I had trench foot. I got trench foot really bad. When I came back to Michigan, I was so paranoid and so messed up that I was sleeping on the floor. And that's when all these people from the Warren Tattoo crew came in, trying to setting me up on crimes. People in St. Clair Shores, Michigan. You guys can look into this stuff yourself. You can look into it. I urge you to. This is the mystery that is my life. But everybody's life is a mystery. And when I was in a bookstore and I brought this up to a person, now I didn't tell them that I was talking about my own book called Ison, the one I was getting ready to write, okay? Right? I just told the girl, I said, do you have a book like this? Now I got this idea from Lenny Bruce a little bit. You know, you take ideas from wherever. And she goes, no, but it sounds really interesting. I'd read something like that. I go, oh, okay. And I just walked out. I just got one person's opinion, okay? This is how and why I know that my book is superior. Not that my writing is technically superior. but it's just these concepts that I'm able to create. I wrote this entire thing while I was homeless, guys. Okay? I lost one job. I was going up as an art handler, and the person I'm driving with is sleeping with the light on. We have to sleep in the same room. This is the kind of childish people that I'm dealing with, that I was dealing with. I had the woman there the exact same time. Then I'm walking back to my room. She keeps locking the room. And I have to walk all the way back down the hall. And she's like, I don't know. This is called running game. And everybody knows about it. And if you are such people on the left that you want to run game on somebody, look who you created. You created Candace Owens. You created your own Frankenstein monster. And this is life's great, rich reward for that. If you're going to be such a POS and target an individual, just like my wife. My wife could have told me, Gordon, I don't love you. Please leave. Take your stuff and leave. I would have left. But I would have taken with me the Jeep that my loving parents had given us. And in case you guys don't know, in case you're here for the first time, my wife was actually using a neurological weapon on me. And she was frying my brain with this weapon. And it was so bad that when I got back, they were still coming through my phone, and I believe they were coming through the Facebook app as well. And it cooked my brain in 2018, and I was afraid for my life. And people were laughing about it, and I named these people on this show. And I want you to reach out to these people, and I want you to contact them. I've already doxed these people. They're back in the old episodes. You have to figure out who these people are and what I'm talking about. Right? We have to prove what I'm talking about is real. What if they deleted everything that they've ever done? What if you can't figure this out? Am I a liar? Well, I told you guys before that I would be willing to take any lie detector test. Now, don't forget, the polygraph was created almost in the 19th century. It was released in the early 20th century. Why would we still use this technology when we have all this other amazing tech? We wouldn't. We would not. The polygraph is the same as the E-meter that they used in Scientology. Oh, yeah. So, anyways, I believe that in this country we should be able to worship however we choose to worship, right? If you want to create your own space age cult, your own space age religion, you have a right to do that as long as you don't harm anybody, as long as you don't harm yourself, right? But who's to say? Who's challenging any of these things? I urge you, reach out to the people that I've doxed right here on this show. I've named them. You have to go back in time. You have to see what names I've named. Reach out to those people. Say, hey, what's Gordon talking about? Why'd you have a problem with Gordon? Who's on my side? Are any of you on my side? Is there a side? Are any of us really, truly that innocent? How come King Midas can't pick a winner? Can't say that, right? The first vilification of Pan. Poor Pan. Aleister Crowley wrote a hymn to Pan. We all know that. I talk about the Theosophists quite a bit on this show. Like I said, I talk about my real life. I'm going to try to cover up the wind. I don't know what this sounds like. It might sound kind of bad. I don't know. But what I like to talk about is linoleum blown apart, and you'll never guess what happened, guys. It's the most amazing thing. Now, we have the 7 films of Walter, and we go in and out of the life of the punk rock band. Why? Because we have music. We have a certain time period, which is the 80s through the 90s. But we don't have to really say when this is. This is up to the producers. A lot of stuff is up to the producers. And the reason we have it is because that's where the band gets their name from. And so we're going to keep reflecting back to these films, just like a Clockwork Orange, when us punk rockers would go around with a Clockwork Orange shirt on. The kids in the scene are going to be wearing the same thing. But then in the 90s, it's going to cross over. Walter's going to hand in his very last film. It's called Bonaparte, Bon Ami. My Friend Napoleon. Why? Because when he was 12 and 13 years old, I'm sorry, I think he was 15 years old, he's watching this with his father and his uncle. And his father and his uncle die in this fascist government. And that's what the film that he always wanted to make. But instead of making like this ode to Napoleon, he creates this Terry Gilliam insane world. That's a bizarre comedy. That's a tragedy. That's like gross. There's blood everywhere. There's heads exploding. There's like, what are you doing? It was one of the first. It's kind of like, I guess, is it that Sam Peckinpah Western? Right? I'm sorry about the wind, guys. I don't know how I could stop that wind from blowing into the microphone. I'm very sorry. In case you don't know, I am homeless. I do my show while I'm homeless, and I don't even ask you for any money. I want to get this project up and running. Will work for fish and salad. That's my favorite thing to eat. Right? So, at some point, they're going to take the two songs that would be the top hits. It's a song called Wave, and that is my Smells Like Teen Spirit. And then there's a song called, not Know My Name, but it's called All Alone with the Western Sun. I didn't mean to make you cry. Keep telling yourself that you know why. Na, 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 na. Anyways, it's another song. There's nobody here watching us anyway, so I don't care. I don't think that's a 9. I think it's a 0. Anyway, so it's a second song. Those would be the two hit songs. I already know. And Back When is a hit song, right? So what they would do is, going into transition, you leave this very last film of Walter's. It's called Bonaparte, Bon Ami, My Friend Napoleon. And it's completely grossed out. And nobody can wrap their minds around it because Monty Python doesn't exist then. It's a Terry Gilliam style Napoleon, where the friend is the one who blows the nose off the Sphinx. It's a series of comic mistakes. So when you think that he's going to be in love with Napoleon, he actually shows his love by following him aimlessly, and then he ends up, I have the narrative for Bonaparte, Bon Ami, at one point, he might even actually try to kill him. Because this animosity, or the animosity towards him, the ambivalence rather, right? This love-hate relationship that he has with Napoleon kind of takes a bizarre turn at one point, right? So I have, again, I have the entire narrative formulated, right? But this week, we're all Scorpius XL all the time. That's right. That's where we're at in the narrative. But the big surprise is the fact that I already have these blaxploitation films created. One's called Thug Wife, and the other's called Brother. They're already created. I already created them. And I created them right here on this show. That's why this show is so vital. Guys! That's why. Because I'm tapping into my subconscious in order to find all this stuff out. I don't know if I'm going to try to, I think there's somebody spit here before. I'm trying to avoid the spit. If I can. Somebody else's spit, not my own. I got people in my background, sorry. It is the holiday. Happy holiday, whatever that means. I don't really care. What is, Pluto is conjunct with Aquarius, and it hasn't been that way in the sky since 1776. Check out the Gnostic Informant TV. That's where I get a lot of my stuff from. A lot of my Gnostic information. I get it from Gnostic Informant TV, and I get it from Hans Jonas. I'm reading a book by Hans Jonas, and I'm about halfway through it. It's really tough because I've seen other books that I want to read, and I have read other stories. I read stories by Chester Himes, and in Chester Himes' 1937 story, he uses the N-word non-stop. Okay? It is African Americans talking to other African Americans in some crazy situation, and it's kind of violent. And he talks about the urge to commit crimes. When you're so put upon and you're so put down, he's talking about the creation of criminals. Chester Himes is talking about this in 1937, guys. I read one by James M. Cain. It was a rather shallow story. I was reading one by the woman who worked on The Empire Strikes Back. What was her name? Her name's Lee Bennett, something like that. Leah Bennett. You can find her on. Almost fell off. I swear. You can find her on Wikipedia. She helped write The Empire Strikes Back. I'm a big fan of American Graffiti. I think American Graffiti was a game changer. American Graffiti created the show Happy Days. It created Laverne and Shirley, obviously. Okay, I think in terms of that. I think in terms of these big shows like The Sopranos. Okay, that's how I'm thinking here, and I can go on and on. You can see where it's 60 minutes, and I can go on and on and on about these narratives. I can talk about other things, and I try to keep it interesting because I can't sit here and give all my ideas away. And by the way, I was talking about Billy Joe Armstrong from Green Day and how we have similar songs to Green Day, and I was talking about Fred Armisen. They did a film together, and this is how my AI is supposed to be working. I should have got that information weeks ago. Why am I only getting this right now? And as a matter of fact, I did remember he did a film, okay? But I didn't know Fred Armisen was in it. Fred Armisen plays his buddy, and they play punk rock together. I mean, I was the one who was saying I was in a band before Green Day. I didn't know Green Day existed. The songs are always listed under Linoleum Blown Apart in the playlist. I have a lot of great songs on the playlist, okay? I talk about a lot of things on this show. And I don't think cancel culture is right. I think it's okay to ostracize somebody, but I was actually targeted through the app. My wife was using a shock collar on me. And what did I do? Subconsciously, I wrote a book called Two-Legged Animal. Okay? And I remember during that time that, that's weird. This was, looks edible. It looks both edible and like a caterpillar. I don't know what it is. An edible caterpillar? So I remember during this time I was looking up a lot of fringe topics on Facebook. And again, people came in out of the blue and they used this barking at the moon shot collar. And it had to do with groupthink people, I believe. And again, this is scary area that we're in. Now, I never said I was a saint, but I had no idea the level of depravity that they could go using your device, and they did. And it was brutal. So you guys can participate in the mystery that is my life. You know, we're all going to die. Sometimes I explained to you, I was turned away from a hospital at the age of 5. I was turned away. I was told, there's nothing wrong with you. I don't even remember being at the hospital. Okay? I remember waking up on the couch, and my mom and dad were sitting there, and there was a look of worry on my mom and dad's face. Like, they were stressed out, guys. And I just remember I could barely keep my eyes focused, and I just kept vomiting. So they allowed me to go to sleep on the couch. And you're not supposed to go to sleep after you get a concussion. I had probably a swollen brain, whatever. They told me I had a cracked skull. They might have made it up just to keep me in the hospital. They didn't know. I don't know. There's no way for me to know. This is part of the mystery and has nothing to do with narcissism. I'm creating a show because I'm a creative individual. Oh, I'm sorry. What are you going to do? Say anybody who wants to sing a song, get up there and sing, is a narcissist? What I see, one of the girls I have a crush on, and is a person who was supported by their family. And they were allowed to dress up, mess up, you know, do these little performances out of their bedroom. To this day, that I kind of watch the same thing. I watch similar things. I watch, you know, these little TikTok videos of, you know, beautiful women actually making videos in their room, right? And there's nothing lecherous about it. It's just beautiful to watch. It's just, you see these, you capture these natural moments. And that's what a director in a series, in a show, obviously a film, anything, they're all trying to capture a natural moment. And that's what Stanley Kubrick was trying to do. And that's why it was really funny. Harvey Keitel, he got fired from Apocalypse Now, and then years later he told Stanley Kubrick to fuck off, like he just quit. Right? Well, he kept going. Again, you don't fit that type, and it's like you never hear these stories, man. And I always, that's why I love the internet so much, because I'm finally able to look some things up that I had a notion to find out about for years. That's what was so great about it, that you could reach out to somebody and I could leave a comment. I was trolling people and doing all this stuff, right? And you could do that, right? And the person has a right to block you. Oh, like that one hot chick. Man, is she hot. I like her. I like her style. There's certain things I like about certain people for certain reasons. And sometimes you don't know why. And I like exploring that theme as well. That was part of the cremation of care. I do have a song called Bohemian Grove. I urge you to check it out. Okay? Because Bohemian Grove has changed. It turned into Burning Man. Right? Now, I'm not saying Bohemian Grove doesn't exist. But, do you guys remember a song called China Grove by the Doobie Brothers? Which Doobie you mean? Right? Just like in Bill Maher's Stoner Basement, man. Right? Right? I don't think there's anything cool or interesting can come out of a slurring drunk. I just don't. I mean, unless you're kind of just putting someone on the spot, that you're trying to get somebody drunk, like they did Drunk History or whatever it was. You know, something like that. But other than that, I don't really see any redeeming qualities coming from being drunk, high, or stoned. But anyway, so like I said, there is these 7 films, and then once he turns in this very last film, what do you have? You have the exploitation films coming in. Now, you could take the drum beat and from one of the songs from Linoleum Blown Apart. These songs are always available in the playlist. Please check them out. Right? Like I said, with the song Bohemian Grove, anything can have a name change. Like, we have a song called Glue Hawaii. I'm going to change that to Brew Hawaii, and it's going to be a song about drinking beer, and it's one of the main songs that get urban, what used to be called the band Urban Upset, noticed. And there's going to be a huge conundrum with changing the name from Urban Upset to Linoleum Blown Apart. And that has to do with 2 women in Walter's life. Okay? And these women are from the screenplay that Stanley Kubrick wrote, because Napoleon has a scene with a prostitute early on when he's young, right? We all should have, I don't mean to talk like that, but it's really true. We all have to have these sexual experiences. And it's really important it's a rite of passage. And so it's similar to that. Remember, he's the reincarnation of Napoleon. I could go on and on and on, guys, and I'm proving it every single day that I come on here and I do this show. So the same thing's going to happen in his life. He's going to have Roxy and Jojo. Jojo is Josephine, and Roxy is this prostitute from the Stanley Kubrick screenplay for Napoleon. Guys, I am putting my entire life into this. I'm living homeless. I'm out on the streets. I'll try to do this show every day, and I might run out of money. You might not even see me for a while, and I have to go, you know, work somewhere and come back and try to open up a bank account and do all this stuff over again. Right? I told you, I just noticed this film with Billy Joe from Green Day and Fred Armisen. These are the kind of people that understand what I'm doing. These are the kind of people who actually have connections. But the difference is, with Billy Joe Armstrong songs, they sound like Billy Joe Armstrong songs. Okay? I don't know if you guys can, unless you're a musician, you might not be able to wrap your mind around this. You understand? Eric Clapton song sounds like Eric Clapton. And it could be somebody else doing that song, but it's still Eric Clapton. You kind of have that essence of Eric Clapton. And I think Billy Joe Armstrong, not to put it in the pejorative, but he suffers from this. This is why you need my songs. This is why my songs go in the project. Because my songs have a hook that you haven't heard before. And they're not going to sound like somebody else's songs. Right? Even though he could be a producer on it. Fred Armisen could be a producer on it. We could try to get the money behind it. I could be a showrunner on it. I could create scenes. We could create dialogue around the scenes. I could use my acting prowess in order to do this. Okay? That is the entire point of what I'm doing. That is my raison d'être. That is my reason for living. I don't have any other reason for living. It certainly isn't Slopey. My fake wife, or whoever she was, she had 7 years to tell me to leave. Gordon, I don't love you. But she chose to run self-harm ops. She did it on the ground. She's showing me pictures of a guy she's having an affair with at work and lying and saying he slit his throat. They're fake photos to put the idea of self-harm in my mind. Like, what are you doing? Did I do something to you? I did nothing. I made a mistake one time in my life, and it didn't happen before, and it hadn't happened since. But they took advantage of this, and this is what I'm trying to tell you. They did the same thing in Michigan, in New York, and they've done it here more than once. They've used this weapon on me right here. I don't understand it. I never will. They're trying to tell people that you cannot, if you're not a criminal, we're gonna make you a criminal. And if there isn't a narrative about you, we're gonna create a narrative about you. And we've got connections in the newspaper in order to print it out. These are the kind of threats that I've had in my real life. Are you insane? Yes. Yes, these people are. I believe so. And that's why, when I was back in Michigan, I took the bait. Hey, Gordon, can you get me some drugs? Don't you think after having my brain fried that my little antenna were up and working? That's how arrogant these people are. Calling me Zoolander and thinking, no, Gordon, he's so stupid, man. He doesn't know anything. I told you before, my sisters were valedictorians of their class. Okay? We came through heavy, heavy trauma, man. Have any of these little safe space suckers ever? You know what their heavy trauma is? Here's the heavy trauma for these people. They went down to Detroit one time and got accosted by some black guys. Yeah, see? You didn't think this is funny. There you go, Crow. There you go. That's these guys. It's insane. When I went back to Detroit, there's finally, what are they called? Death in custody. There's a guy named Ralph. There's other multi-culti people involved in Oi Punk. The whole thing was really fucking stupid. But once you're canceled, these people are such obsequious Philistines. What they do is they project what they know to be important onto you. That's why when I went back to Michigan and everybody's bringing up this fake coward's name. Why are you bringing up this guy's name? Is there some kind of fake beef going on? Well, they're projecting because that guy's been talking about me for 30 years. Whoa. 30 years, guys. Guess who I was never talking about until recently? People in the Detroit punk scene. I never talked about these people. Why? Because I was busy actually writing. I was busy doing things. Okay? And at this point in time, I'm sorry, but if you're involved in Peter and the Test Tube Babies and like a lot of these bands, I call them pension punks. They're all on a pension. Right? And they look like classic rock guys now. Don't forget, that music goes back to the 1970s. Right? I was listening to 30 Days in the Hole. Right? With Peter Frampton. Nobody knew who Peter Frampton was. Right? And then all of a sudden, Peter Frampton came out with that Peter Frampton live album. And it had some of the most amazing songs on it. Okay? This is the kind of essence that I'm talking about. Look at Cheap Trick's live at Budokan. Nobody had heard these songs, I Want You to Want Me. But they caught a little bit of a following, and then boom. Now they come on mass. Now they're opening up for Kiss. To see Cheap Trick and Kiss on the same show, I would have loved it as a kid. I didn't have a father to take me. And my sister was going because some guy wanted to take her out on a date. Right? And they don't want the little brother tagging along. That's what I was. I was a tag-along. Until I broke off on my own. And I started hanging out with the fellas in the neighborhood. And I started emulating the fellas. Right? And one of my oldest friends was Robert Reband. They were lampooning me on Facebook, and they think it's so funny. They think it's hilarious that I don't even know if Robert Reband is even dead. And guys I played him with a band in, they knew that they were running game through the app. They knew I was being targeted, and they know all about this. They know the people who are involved in this. Oh yeah. It is tortures of the damned. It is tortures of the damned. And you could see I'm into 80 minutes. I could go all day, guys. I could go all day. I'm very sorry if the wind is blowing and it's messing up the sound. I'll have to look into these things. I'll have to try to go somewhere where it's not going to happen. But again, this is my life's work. This is my project. It's called Linoleum Blown Apart. I'm trying to get people interested in it. Billy Joe Armstrong did a film, and it's basically, I guess, I don't know, like Selma Blair was looking rather cute as the mother. And so my wife forgot my birthday, so I got this presidential suite. Let's use it to jam out, bro. Oh, my daughter loves me, but I'm just an ordinary guy. Okay. I'm not putting it down. I hope it made money, and, you know, I hope it was very successful. I hope they, whatever, right? But that's not what this is about. I mean, it's basically like The Hangover, you know, meets like one of these rock and roll movies or what, I don't know. I never saw it, but I'm telling you that the impetus for what I'm doing is alive and well. It's gonna go from punk rock into grunge, not really grunge, but pop power punk that became popular in the 90s, and then it's gonna go right into rap. And the last film is Bonaparte Bon Ami, and it's gonna go right into another director who's inspired by Walter, but he's what? Possibly African American or multiculti, however you want to make him. It doesn't matter. That's what I'm saying. These notions are fallacious. You could have anybody. Who's the one guy? He's like an Asian guy, but he talks very urban. That's what you used to say. Somebody talks urban. They talk like Eminem or something. Whatever, right? So it really doesn't matter. But, you know, you can run with this however you want to run with it. Like I said, I'm loosey-goosey. I'm actually creating this on the show. And so you go from Bonaparte Bon Ami, what is it, 1969? And then you go into the 1990s where Lenny dies. I mean, he goes away. We don't know what happens to him. And it's 1996, right? And maybe he just goes missing. We don't know. Look what happened to Napoleon. They sent him to St. Helena. They sent him to hell. He was banished. Okay? So, you have these people who know this hit song that he had. Maybe it's back when. Doesn't really have the beat that you could pick up. The song called Wave actually does. Sorry. So that has, the song Wave actually has more of a funky beat to it that you could pick up, right? And you would use that beat to sample the same way that the Beastie Boys used Led Zeppelin to sample from early on, back when you could kind of get away with that. I don't know how they did it. I don't know the ins and outs of the of how or why you can get away with something like that. I don't know. That's for the legal department. I think what I'm working on is epic, okay? And I think I deserve to actually have this project at least move somewhere forward. You can see it's developing right here on YouTube. And this is coming from somebody who's been canceled. What am I canceled for? For my belief system? Am I canceled for this? Am I canceled for that? Am I canceled for past transgressions that are 30 years old? That I made right with the person involved just because I didn't adhere to the state? Now I have a bunch of on-the-ground gangsters acting out against me? Who are you actually acting out for? Who knows, right? They don't care. Well, why should I care? I think you guys should care. I think you could turn this show into a true mystery. It's a mystery show. It's a mystery trip. Right? That's what we're all on. I hope the wind isn't coming in too bad. I'm a little self-conscious about it because in one of the episodes it was really coming in pretty bad. Sorry. And I hope I'm not yelling too much at the park. I don't think I am, because when I hear their voices, I can't hear them. You know what I mean? I can hear a voice. That's it. You know, I can't really make out what they're saying. But what I'm talking about is this. In the 1970s, in 1969, just like Mario Van Peebles. I'm sorry, Melvin Van Peebles. I remember all those Mario Van Peebles movies. They were great in the 90s. Right? Just like Melvin Van Peebles. A director is going to pick up the torch from Walter because he's going to be inspired by his films. Because we know that with art and music and mythology and religion, it doesn't have a color. There's no color involved. And when you live in an urban center, everybody's urban. Like, what are you talking about? Even Keith's urban. Yeah, that's it. Right? None of that stuff matters. So this is up to the producers. This is up to the people involved in this. But we can kind of see where this director picks up the torch and he creates what? A film called Brother. And then there's another film called what? Thug Wife. Now, imagine what you could do if you can get the rights to Tupac. If you got the rights to Tupac, you could have Tupac saying, yeah, I got the term thug life from a 1970s film called Thug Wife. Do you see this, the possibilities that are happening here? That we can, if you got the right, you know, license and all this kind of stuff, right? This is the massivity of my thinking. All right, this is how massive this project is. But guess what? The most important thing, look how quickly this project can come together. It can come together right away. Okay, and so we have another director come in, maybe someone who was working with Walter on his last couple of films. They don't know what happened to Walter. They don't know what happened to Lenny. You could leave it up as a mystery. And people are going to be like, oh, I don't like that.
They never finished the first story. Why are they starting the second story? Oh, boy. Well, let me see what happens.
Right? You can't really predict what an audience is going to do. And besides, you know, like I get passionate about films and stuff like that, right? Oh, what happened in this film? Boy, I really wanted to see this film. Oh boy, this film let me down. I'm getting emotionally involved. But what's really dangerous is if you allow an essential worker, when other people aren't essential, to have a weapon and use it and target you with this weapon. That's what they're doing to people. They're giving this weapon, I'm talking about my real life, man. They're giving this quote unquote weapon to essential workers. And they're saying, use it on somebody who isn't essential. And that person was me. And then you're left scrambling, well, what did I do? Right? You can only guess. And what do you get? A bunch of incredulous, right? SOBs, right? A bunch of incredulous bigots. People who have taken an oath by God. If you've taken an oath by God, you are a bigot. And that's where the term SOB comes from. Right? Taking an oath by God makes you a bigot. Now, I always thought a bigot meant someone who was prejudiced. And I think it has both terms and both meanings. Right? We talk about a lot of things on this show. Life is a mystery, and we don't know. So you can help solve the mystery of my life. If I've been canceled, please tell me. Please tell me. Why am I being vilified? Why am I being targeted? I don't care about the political system. I'm here to work on my life's, more than likely, final project. And if something happens to me and I die, you can use this show in order to kind of piece together this mystery of what happened to me. Right? Boy, I want some cold brew. I was only able to get one coffee. They have it on sale. I eat off the EBT menu. I have every right to use my food stamps. I look for work. But every time you look for a job, they put your quote unquote, they ask you what your race is. They're putting Latino down as a race. Is anybody questioning this? Why? Do they do that in other countries? Are they calling people from India and Pakistan white? What are they putting down? Do you see how none of this makes any sense? You see how dumb it is? But we want people to be represented, quote unquote. Right? And sometimes I write in people like in the Spangled Banner who have to be, comes out in 1954. Okay? And they have to be, you have to have an African American valet. Why? Because the President of the United States actually sees his equal in this man. That's right. The President of the United States goes all the way to the top, shakes all these hands. In Walter's film, A Spangled Banner, where the President of the United States goes on a killing spree. I developed this while I was at Premier Office Spaces right here on Wilshire Boulevard. Okay? I had time to allow my mind to run free, and I did the same thing with this show. That's what this show is. We are tapping into what I call the Eggyverse. We are tapping into the subconscious in my mind. And by doing that, I gotta straighten out my hair, scratch my scalp. Shut up. I got that from Mr. Rogers. You gotta come on and look spiffy. You ever change your clothes? Right? Cable guy. Don't worry, I'm leaving. Right? Whatever the hell I was talking about. So, we have 1969. We enter the blaxploitation era, and we have thug wife, and we have brother. And we have these two films. Now I have the narratives for these films. You know, these films, I'm just very sorry. Any grindhouse film, the narrative is going to be kind of simple, but the film kind of goes on and on and on. It kind of like, it doesn't stop. You're like, where is this going, man? And then there's going to be some ultimate revenge at the end. I do like Brother because why? They are the DNA match of each other. And one of them is a police officer, and one of them goes to prison. Now, we don't know how long he goes to prison. He probably only goes to prison for a few years, right? But it does make him changed, and it makes him hardened. And he comes out of prison, and he actually starts working with people in the community, and he actually starts solving problems in the community. What happens to his brother? His brother becomes a police officer, and he starts what? Becoming corrupt. This is what I'm trying to tell you. There are factions, obviously, of the police. They're just walk around, like the park rangers. They go around, they make sure that everything's okay. They just kind of show their presence. Hey, how you doing? Just checking in with you, making sure you're all right. Okay. You've been sitting at the frickin' park bench for 2 hours there and screaming at a tablet. Okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But there are different offices that can become corrupt, that can target individuals, that can start dealing drugs. Okay, you had the Dirty 30 in New York City. Okay, then there was the 75th Precinct. You guys remember this documentary? Oh, they're glorifying, they're like, everyone's laughing about it. Oh yeah, they were targeting individuals, they were robbing drug dealers, you know, all this classy stuff. And again, this stuff is going on for years and years before anyone catches wind of it. You understand? So, this is what happens to the brother. This is what happens to the good guy. Do you see this dynamic? Right? You could see it in your own life. You could see, like, man, I lost my temper that one time, or I got really desperate one time, and I robbed a place, or I did something that's like, how am I ever going to live that down? I mean, outside of murder, obviously. How am I ever going to live that down? Right? And you wonder about these things, right? What was the first thing I did when I accidentally, I could say accidentally, hurt my girlfriend? Well, I went back to pick her up to see if she was okay, to say I'm sorry. That's the first thing I fucking did. And I got my wife for 7 years using a weapon on me, melting my brain and laughing about it. It's up to you guys to solve this mystery that is my life. That's what makes this show so important. Okay? That's what makes this show so prescient. That's what makes my show different than everybody else's show. I don't care that I'm canceled. There's nothing you can do about it. The only thing you can do is take my life. And I've lost my life twice in a lifetime. When I'm a little kid and I've got a swollen brain. Okay? Now, whether or not that caused me to actually... Sorry, guys, I'm trying to cover up the wind from blowing too much. Now, whether that caused me to think with the right side of my brain a little bit more, I don't know. I think maybe growing up with all women, okay? Because they were actually smart, harder, smarter, better, faster than any of the guys in the neighborhood, that's for sure. They were definitely smarter, right? And so I was able to have this creative childhood. And I write about it in my book called Two-Legged Animal. And for years, I gave away this book for free. Absolutely free. Here, take it. Check it out. I want some interest in this. My songs are good. I knew they were good. But in this world, especially in Michigan, with a bunch of phonies who want to set you up on a fake murder rap, and let me tell you, all the people that I S-talked, I called them out by name. I bet you interview these people, they'll be like, oh yeah, sure, Gordon, he's a killer. Yeah. Oh yeah, Gordon the big killer, huh? Big killer, is that what I am? Is that what I am? Eh? Oh, we don't know what he's talking about. Why? Did you hit the delete button? Did somebody at Facebook hit the delete button? Where was that newspaper article that had my likeness on it? I don't know, dude. I don't know, man. Oh, I don't know. We don't know what Gordon's talking about. Right? Gordon's self-harming. Eh? Oh yeah, really? It was coming through my device. I was not upset about the slope-shouldered manatee of a fuddy-duddy, that's for sure. What I was completely bonkers about what was happening after she left. Since before she left, the day she walked out, I was targeted after that every single day in 2018, and I got back to my parents' house and I was devastated. I was crying. I was broken. I was hurting so bad. And people like that I've named before on this show, they were laughing about it. They thought it was hilarious to crush me. Crushed, man. They were convinced I was going to self-harm, and then they were going to have access to all of my music. I gotta see what's on that t-shirt. I'm just obsessed. It's interesting. Oh, whatever. Right? I'm at an hour, guys. I can keep going. I could talk about Scorpius XL, and that's what we were talking about in the last episode. Okay? Is Scorpius XL? We're talking about the films of Walter, right? But I'm going to get something to eat. I'm going to let you guys go. I want to thank you very, very much for watching my show. I do appreciate it. I come on here every single day. I might come on a little bit later as well. I like coffee. I like skinny skiing. I like bullfights on acid. That's right. One of the greatest lines from Caddyshack. A lot of people forget that, you know, it takes more than one person to get a project going, and I hope that you guys can please get involved in this project, get involved in this show, and please contact me in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching my show. I appreciate it more than you'll ever know.